Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today we're going to be taking a very close look at specific things that's been happening in the Division community. And I think this conversation is a little pertinent because it's going to set the tone for the future of a lot of video games and franchises and even the developers and publishers that are behind these. Now, my last video, I talked a little bit about PvP and I actually said how Ubisoft Massive can take some notes from NetherRealm Studios in their Mortal Kombat game. I quickly made a lot of distinctions knowing that they're different games, and I still got the comment saying that you can't compare both games. Everybody knows that one's a fighting game and the other one's a shooter, but they are both RPG games, and nonetheless, there are still reasons to still look and say the experience that Mortal Kombat 11 has garnered for so many years is worth looking into for many games that try to engage in some of these systems, especially in their RPG games, be it looter shooters, be it hack and slash, or be it other fighting games. That experience is too long for you to just say, for anybody to just say, yeah, we're going to ignore that. But that's not even the source of my conversation today. My conversation today is leaning towards a lot of the comments that I'm seeing across the community. I watched a video the other day from Epic Slayers where he basically said the Division 2 had ruined him, the franchise had ruined him, basically spoiled him to the point where a lot of other games are not able to provide a lot of the things that the Division, pretty much has provided. Now, Epic Slayers and myself were big, huge Division fans. Usually, I know and he knows that people will go on the internet, on Twitter and stuff and call us all kinds of crazy names, but hey, that is to their own, opinion or whatever it is. The people who are going to call names are going to call names, but it doesn't reduce from the fact that the Division has something very unique to offer. Now, another video that I watched, and this is from actually one of the channels that is a huge harsh critic of the Division, I started to see in the comment section that people were saying in that video that they've left Outriders and decided to return to the Division 2, and many of them are saying that it's actually a refreshing change, which is interesting because the theme of a lot of channels that criticize the Division is that the Division is a bad game, it's a poor game, it's broken, it's busted, it's this, the devs hate us, the devs don't care. I mean, you hear this rhetoric over and over again, and from my perspective, I really don't see it as that. I mean, when you say things like the devs don't care, I laugh and say the devs have a boss. It's the bosses that are not necessarily pushing forward for what the community may want at a given time. It's not the fault of Yannick, as for the most part anyways. This is something where he has to actually listen to his bosses and follow their directive. It's not the fault of people like Hamish. You have to understand that many of them, in fact, during the state of the game, you see the way they're so scared and jittery to talk about specific things. That tells you that they have people who control what it is that they're able to say, because those people own the company. If they had their company, then you could criticize them on those fronts. Now, yes, they probably will merit their own criticisms in other areas, but I don't think some of the criticisms that are levied at the feet of the devs actually are, in my opinion anyways, actually are worthwhile. So let me also drop another Mortal Kombat update in here. And the reason I continue to do MK11 stuff is because I've played MK11 and the Division 2 at similar amounts of time, and both games are very core to my gameplay experience. And what's even better is both games came out a month apart. The Division 2 came out in March of 2019, and then in April of 2019, Mortal Kombat 11 was released. Both games went strong. Mortal Kombat 11 actually defeated the Division 2 in sales. It was number 5 in the top-selling games chart for that year, and even stretched into 2020 as one of the top-selling games. The Division 2 was hanging at number 9 and number 10 in that same list. So what's, that got to do with anything? Well, a game like Mortal Kombat, you would think that the developers will go ahead and continue supporting this game, but just recently they just put out an announcement, basically just a few hours ago, saying NetherRealm is now focusing on its next project, and after more than 2 years of supporting Mortal Kombat 11, DLC for the game, including characters, has come to an end. They pretty much shut down the entire project. Yo, we in the Division community, we got this kind of a half message, and then they said, no, we want to get you guys some more content. I think we're the fortunate ones here because this game has received more than 2 years of support, and I believe strongly that they want to make another sequel because that's just how they roll at Massive, more than likely wanting to make another game, and they decided to end this game, but they understood one thing. They could not end this game in that kind of a, situation. They wanted to make sure that the fans and the community had something to go out with, which is the content that Ubisoft Bucharest is working on. Now, am I saying that they're the good guys for doing this? No, 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 no. That is a marketing ploy. I always try my best to make the distinction that whenever video game companies are doing things that are really cool and really nice and really consumer friendly, when people are like, yeah, guys, they have something that they want to sell to you on the back end. It's not, and there is no tit for tat. It's not a charity or charitable organization or some, even a charity has got to pay, its CEOs hundreds of thousands of dollars. So somehow they got to raise money. And so this is the outlook that I have with a lot of these studios. I never really want to bother about them caring about me. I want them to do what's best for them to be able to earn my own dollars. And if they want to do that, then they have to do what's best for me. If you take that stance, you're able to understand how they work and you're able to understand if you're going to give them money or not. Now get it. I paid for 2 copies of Mortal Kombat 11 and I paid for the DLC. So I've blown a huge amount of money on the game. I think I may have spent more money on Mortal Kombat content than The Division, or I probably have spent about the same because I'm heavily invested in that game as well. And so seeing the way these big companies, and NetherRealms is a big company, they've been in development as, I think Midway in the past, and then after they got acquired by Warner Brothers, I think they changed their name to NetherRealm Studios, something like that. I can't remember, but they've been in the business of making Mortal Kombat for a long time, and, now they're working on their next project. Now, what is this going to look like? How did they serve their community? Did they do a good job in the past 2 or so years when they were actually doing things? I think the answer is, a hit or a miss. Another thing about this particular Mortal Kombat fiasco is NetherRealm actually finished their seasonal grind. I mean, many of you know what the season grind is. The season grind pretty much happens to have where we're playing our seasons, we're farming for gear and cosmetics. They did the same thing in Mortal Kombat 11. They did the Combat League seasons and they ran a bunch of seasons with it. And they didn't necessarily say anything. The last Combat Cast, which is like their state of the game that they do, they actually also do kind of a state of the game as well. They mentioned that, they were going to be repeating the Combat Cast, scenario. So basically, I said Combat League. Basically, they rehashed their seasons, which was quite shocking for many people in the community. They didn't bring any new season. They didn't bring new gear. They didn't bring new cosmetics or whatever. And I was laughing and saying, oh my gosh, it's like the Division is suffering the same things that this game is suffering. And so many times I get to see a lot of these same, scenarios from both games. Now, if you play any other game out there in the industry, you probably see some of these things also crop up. From the Destiny community, I've also heard from many people in Destiny saying that Destiny is dry right now. There doesn't seem to be any content. Some people from the Warframe community there was just an ad the other day showing the new Warframe, update that was coming, and PlayStation, I think, was the first to show it, and people were mocking Warframe developers saying, oh my gosh, we can't believe that PlayStation showed the trailer for your next update before you guys are even that late to the plate. So ideally, you got to ask yourself, what all is going on with all of this stuff? Why is it so crazy in the gaming industry right now? We got to look at 2021. And as I looked at 2021 and look at even 2020, what happened, you have to concede that across the board, gaming in development and in updates really did suffer. In fact, one really interesting thing has happened lately. Somebody put a wager on Twitter, one of my audience members, for the new game that's going to be coming out, Elden Rings. And they even said that they're skeptic that Elden Rings is going to be released on the date that they've promised the game to actually come out. And he said anybody who would like his tweet will get a copy of Elden Rings if it came out on the date that they've actually said so. And I was the one who won that like competition. So I'm banking on Elden Rings coming out on its proposed release date, but he's saying that it might not happen. And the truth is, even though I'm banking on it, I'm only banking on it for my free copy, but I'm not banking on it in the sense that it's reality. It's the reality. If anything, I'm only hoping in that sense because it's a gamble that didn't cost me anything. But at the end of the day, that is just the reality. That's just the truth that gaming has really suffered in the past few, months. I mean, I don't know what must have happened. In fact, the worst thing with the whole Mortal Kombat fiasco, even with the repetition of the season, because this is just pretty much, another, rehash of everything. In fact, what they've done is they've also taken the skins and taken the cosmetics and kind of swapped them around, so you don't have to do much work anymore. Say maybe an item you had to get at the max level, they just probably brought it to where you can get it on an easier level if you wanted to do that. And so a lot of people are saying that maybe this whole 2020 scenario really affected a lot of things, because data mine files, even within Mortal Kombat, had shown that they actually had more characters and more things to release, but apparently perhaps it's no longer feasible for them. Now, how do you look at stuff like this? If at this point they bring out this final content with the Division 2 and they no longer support the game, how are our players to take this? Now, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I'm only going to speak for myself. If they don't bring out any new content past the content they've promised from Ubisoft Bucharest, even if they don't even bring out that content, I'm going to be in the position where I say to myself, well, as long as they're not asking me any money or to give them any money, I'm fine with that. And I think that transactional mindset is what a lot of gamers have taken on video games. This is why we still play games, because, you know, it's a transaction. It's still something that, you know, we pay money for and something that we buy. Many of us gamers, we take our time, we make informed decisions. Some gamers get caught up in the hype. I usually make videos every time there's new content coming out saying don't get caught up in the hype, or even there's a new game. One of the reasons I talk about gaming like this is because I'm the only content creator that I know that makes those videos. In fact, if we want to mention names, 21 Kiloton only makes his videos after the game has been released. I usually say don't touch the game before it comes out, because I know the satisfaction is something that's easy to creep in, and the expectations and reality don't always match. So when we think about our reality in the community compared to Mortal Kombat 11's reality, where NetherRealms has farmed a bunch more dollars, and this is not talking about in-game cosmetics, by the way. This is not talking about sales. This is not talking about, you know, the different platforms that were able to get some items, and this is not talking about the crossplay functionality that even then encourage more participation in the game. And compare that to the Division 2, with the Division and Ubisoft still trying to bring more content. I would say, number one, we have a slight advantage, but that advantage is not from the goodness of Ubisoft's heart. That advantage is just for the fact that they want to sell us something else. So how do I read this stuff? They probably have another Division game on hand, or they're probably banking that with the good faith that they show with the Division, people might be willing to try their future games down the road. They, you know, regardless of the past, I still believe more people are going to jump into the next Ubisoft massive games, because they're kind of like the devil, you know. It's kind of like people who buy EA games or still buy FIFA. They just say, you know, EA and FIFA are the devil that we know. We don't know these other people, so we're going to go this route. Talk to me in the comment section. Let me hear your thoughts about all of this going on. Hopefully we'll talk in another video. Appreciate you guys so much. Peace out.